right, welcome to the Patriot Hour for Monday, May 27th, 2019. I am Michael, your host. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. It is Memorial Day. Most of you are probably off. Some of you enjoying barbecues with friends, family, loved ones. But let's keep in mind what today is truly about and maybe set an extra plate aside for the fallen, those who will never return to eat that. But enjoy your day. Just keep in mind, say a little prayer for all the families all across the nation that have loved ones that never returned, sometimes not even the remains. All right, folks, Trump has worked some of them deals out with some of these foreign countries to get the remains back. That is huge. Maybe not to you, but if you sit and think about it, that is very huge to a loved one that never had that 50 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Lots going on, folks. We're going to jump into an interesting video. I had tons of things put together. I wanted to make some videos, but I'm just going to do everything in one of these style of videos. So we got lots. We're going to go over a few Q posts here, and then we're going to jump into some other things that you have to see. Huge, the hypocrisy, a little trip down memory lane with a third video I got. Little clips that'll bring us up to something else, and it'll make a bigger picture for you that I think you need to see and understand. So let's jump into these Q posts here and get these read. Okay, we had a few yesterday, just two of them. So we have this 3,348 in the series. Japan knows Q. So this came at 12:56 p.m. yesterday, just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We got a Twitter here. Japan knows Q. Do you think this movement was an isolated anomaly? Bigger than you can imagine. Worldwide. QAnon. So all the way over here in Japan, where Trump was at, you see a Q up here. Unbelievable. Worldwide, folks. Those of you that doubt need to wake up quick, especially with some of this craziness. All right, so we got Japan public _ public, China _ non _ public, South Korea _ non _ public, Q. And this one here, reminder. This is just about the reminder of the MSN attacks on Q because they fear Q the most. This came at 1:01 p.m. Ask yourself, and this is a repost from March 20th of 2019. Ask yourself a very simple question. Why, or would the fake news media and other controlled assets, why would they, or would they, expand this amount of time and resources attacking, in the brackets, an attempt to discredit, cast as a conspiracy or a LARP, this movement, if it did not pose a significant threat, danger, in the brackets? You attack those who threaten you the most. Logical thinking. Q. So that's just something to definitely keep in mind, folks, for all the naysayers. All right, we got to jump into some of this other stuff. We'll get back to these maybe. They're pretty simplistic. That's just a reminder on the MSN, and then we got some other info there to keep in mind. Japan knows Q. All right, so we're going to start with... All right, we're going to start with this one. This is from 07, about a minute long. It is...
Do you favor executive privilege or should Karl Rove and others in that like position be forced to testify before the House or Senate?
Now, again, for context, this is 07. Bush is still in office. Bush would be in office, and Barack is talking about, before he ever even wins, about executive privilege.
Do you favor executive privilege or should Karl Rove and others in that like position be forced to testify before the House or Senate?
Well, I think we'll determine over the next several weeks how this administration responds to the very appropriate call by Patrick Leahy, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, to have these individuals come in and testify. There's been a tendency on the part of this administration to try to hide behind executive privilege every time there's something a little shaky that's taking place. And I think the administration would be best served by coming clean on this. There doesn't seem to be any national security issues involved with the U.S. attorney question. There doesn't seem to be any justification for not offering up some clear, plausible rationale for why these U.S. attorneys were targeted, when by all assessments they were doing an outstanding job. I think the American people deserve to know what was going on there.
Do you favor executive privilege or should call roll?
All right, so that was replaying. There you go. So he's talking about Bush invoking executive privilege to hide something. Now, I don't know the extent of all that because we don't need to get into it, but it's just his, you shouldn't do that. Now, when we fast forward to this matter here, this is after Brock.
News this hour, the Republican-led House of Representatives has voted to hold the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, in criminal contempt of Congress. We heard Eric Holder live on CNN call the vote, in his words, misguided and politically motivated. It all stems from the failed Fast and Furious gun-running sting operation and the administration's refusal to hand over certain documents related to it. Some Democrats, a lot of them, in fact, simply walked out of the House in protest just before the contempt vote. They refused to even vote. Now another vote is coming up to authorize civil action against Eric Holder. The first vote that passed cited criminal contempt of Congress. Let's bring in our crime and justice correspondent, Joe Johns. He watched it all unfold, set the scene for us. History unfolding on this. It's never happened before, Joe.
And Wolf, I think it's certainly true that if anybody was asking for Eric Holder to hang his head and walk away in shame, that certainly did not happen. This was a defiant statement from this Attorney General, the first Attorney General held in contempt of Congress ever in the United States. Reading now, today's vote may make for a good political theater in the minds of some, but it is as base both a crass effort and a grave disservice to the American people. They expect far better. And then he made the turn to the future battle that will occur in the courts over this very issue of the Fast and Furious gun running operation. He said, as a result of the action taken today by the House, an unnecessary court conflict will ensue. My efforts to resolve this matter short of such a battle were rebuffed by Congressman Issa. And he goes on to say, ultimately, their goal was the vote that, with the help of special interests, talking about the National Rifle Association now, that they have now engineered. So clearly a defiant statement from him.
Pause that there for a minute. So what we have here was the Fast and Furious. If you're not familiar with it, it was a low-key operation where they basically took a bunch of guns from the U.S. and dumped them into Mexico and some other places, and all the guns were like registered, or they had them all tracked, but they lost control. They lost where they were going. They couldn't track them, and then some of these guns ended up back and actually killed like a border patrol agent. I believe it was a border patrol agent. If not, it was an agent of one or the other. But they found the gun that was left there. Like somebody shot that officer, that border patrol agent, and then left the gun. And then when they did the serial numbers, they're like, this is one of ours from the Fast and Furious. So it ended up causing more harm, and people were dying, and they lost. It was just a big. So folks, when they tried to get this stuff, Congress wanted to know what the heck, because they didn't know about this program until it was already bad, and then they wanted information, and yet Eric Holder withholding. So the Republicans at the time put in, we want to see this, and you had some Democrats, Republicans put it in. You had some Democrats actually vote for this, but most of them walked out, as you saw. They just walked right out in protest of it all. Like, this is bullcrap. We don't need to see the paperwork. Now, fast forward to now, they're looking to put Mike Barr. They wanted, or Barr, not Mike, but Barr, into contempt, and they wanted him in contempt for doing his job the proper way. He actually released everything except for stuff that was deemed grand jury, a few names, a few processes. So the Democrats want to hold Barr in contempt for literally not breaking the law. Back then, they didn't want the paperwork that just showed a scammy gun running operation. Who wouldn't want to get results of that? We're going to hurt procedures of how we operate. I mean, that's the hypocrisy of this, right? Let's go here a little more, because this is just something.
And the reason we have walked down those stairs and into this courtyard is to call the attention of the American people who are angry about confrontation, angry about gridlock, angry about the fact that we are not focused on their priorities: jobs, investment in infrastructure, the environment, education, innovation, building our economy, who are angry at the politicization of the deliberations of the People's House. That's why we are here in this courtyard, to say to our Republican colleagues, shame on you.
Shame on Republicans.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Strong symbolism on both sides, and it's sort of
ridiculous.
Begs repeating, Wolf. House Republicans.
So there's the difference there. You see it right there, folks. Barr isn't... If Barr listened to the Democrats today, he would be releasing illegal paperwork. He can be in trouble, and that's what they're trying to push him to do. Then after he did it, they would probably say, well, he should have known his job. You guys are going to hold him in contempt, and he was trying to not have all that happen. So anyway, that led to nothing. Eric Holder didn't show up. They put him in contempt. Obama ends up putting executive privilege in over, and then the long-standing law of the FBI or the Justice Department is they will not hold somebody in contempt or prosecute or allow any kind of any issues to happen with that person if the president puts an executive order, presidential executive authority or whatever, executive privilege. So nothing happened. So now we know Trump did that with the Barr stuff. He put in executive privilege. And now it's in the same scenario as Obama did. Now is the DOJ or the Justice Department going to follow long-standing procedure of if there's an executive order put in or executive privilege that you do not pursue criminal charges or allow that to happen. So we'll see if there's more hypocrisy to follow. So there's that little matter, folks. And now here's another one. Here is another one. This is a big one going on. And
yeah, I think that's true. It's a little more complicated than that in the sense of you have to remember the history. Yeah.
This is from the other day. This is from 5/23 or earlier this week. Fleet Week was going on, all week.
I think that's true. It's a little more complicated than that in the sense of you have to remember the history. They killed 600 American soldiers long before
just the ones that are unclassified that we know of.
Just before the pressure campaign, they blew up an embassy. There's a long history of Iranian terror that long predates our sanctions efforts. So this isn't just about our sanctions. This is about the nature of this theocratic regime, these kleptocrats in Tehran. We're determined to push back against
and Mr. Secretary, there's no doubt about it. Dianne Feinstein is ranking member in the Intelligence Committee, having meetings with the foreign minister Zarif, having dinner with him, bragging to people that she has his cell phone. And what about the fact that people have said, and the president has brought up, that John Kerry is essentially giving a message to wait out this 4 years, wait out this president, then we'll get somebody else in there. Have you felt that, and has that affected your job?
Undoubtedly, and it's true. I mean, I was in Munich when I saw not only Kerry, but Wendy Sherman, Ernest Moniz, the whole gang that crafted that terrible deal. They were there. They met with the Iranian leadership. I can't tell you the exact details of what they said.
Happened before?
I can't tell you, but it's unusual, and more importantly, it's wrong. Every American should support America's foreign policy. They had their moment. They had their day. It's time to get off the stage. These acts border. We all know the Logan Act. We all know the risk that is taken when people act as private citizens on behalf of the United States government.
What about John Brennan briefing Democrats yesterday? What is John Brennan briefing Democrats on Iran for?
You'll have to ask the Democrats. I mean, this is the man who directed the CIA at the time that this terror regime grew. I couldn't tell you why they were looking to him for expertise on this issue.
All right, let's switch gears. John Walker.
So there you go. Not only Trump, but you have Mike Pompeo, the head. These are the people that are in power right now, folks. You have people that are wanting to not leave. All right. Now, this whole presence of John Kerry, oh, this is how we've always done it. All past secretaries of state go over and keep relations. And well, I guess so. Under all the past administrations, since you guys are all working for the deep state, that was the main agenda. You got the new guy in, Barack, was Bush running around the world, still making little deals to keep things going in this big picture, possibly. And then you never heard about it in the news. Barack and the current administration didn't really care. They were glad that these past people were going over and still keeping the ball rolling on this bigger global agenda. And that might be the case. You heard them. That's how they try to get out of it. Folks, all the facts line up here on all of this stuff. You got John Kerry. He admits, well, did you go to Iran? Yes. Did you go over there and go to the embassy or talk to yes. Did you tell them not to be calling Trump and to wait for maybe the next people? Well, I think everybody's doing that. So that's how he thinks he's getting out of it. That's wrong. You're right there, the Logan Act. And since we're kind of like a war with them, or there's an issue, they've killed 600,000 Americans, or people, folks, you need to quit, putting the camera in front of the criminal that's being charged. Of course, they'll always tell you, no, end of story, I did nothing. When all the ties are there, Biden and his son, yep, I would be in trouble if I had talked to my son on the phone about what we were both doing. But since I never talked to him and you guys can't prove it, you got nothing. Hillary, Bill Clinton, the money, follow the money. Bill Clinton goes and talks, deals would be made. Money gets shifted to it all looks bad, but they just tell you, nope, the forms are filled out. It's all proper. They do it on the legitimacy of course, trying to make it look right the whole time. But we can't stand for this, and it's wrong. It's actually treasonous. It's Logan Act violations. There's a slew of other, if your agenda, I guess, lined up with the current administration, you might almost be all right. And if you're working with the current administration for debriefs or helping because it's a new administration and you've been around, but that's not the case. All these people that left, they kept their security clearances. They have an opposite agenda of the current administration, and they're going around as private citizens of the U.S. with their background and promising favors, I guess, for after Trump gets out. Don't do anything now. Our people will be back in shortly. Then we can move forward with what we've traditionally done, which is this orchestrated thing to keep you suppressed and keep you as a bad guy on the world scene. And that's the extent of it. That's what they're doing. They're undermining. It's illegal. You can't do it. We don't want them working on our behalf, and we don't need to listen to them. Basically, these idiots need to stand down. This is our final warning to you. Stand down, go away, quit working on our behalf. We don't want you. You lost. You had your chance. Like Pompeo said, John Kerry or John Brennan, Clapper, all these people were in charge for the last 8-9 years while shit was bad. They didn't fix anything. Everything stayed crappy. Then you got a new regime, Trump, come in, and these people were acting like, no, we were on the right path for 8 years. Well, everything was real shitty in the world. We don't want that. That's what you've been creating. So step aside, because the Patriots are awakening. This isn't the biggest fear of you guys is for those of you that think nobody's going to get in trouble, these indictments aren't coming and people aren't going to be put down like rabid dogs. You're mistaken. This is a different time. We're not letting the old norms continue. And bottom line is there's too many of us now that are awakened to this truth. And the biggest fear is they can't walk down the street. If there's nothing held accountable at the highest levels, how do they even operate? We're not going to allow it. I'll tell you that right now, because otherwise we have to shred our Constitution. Why? Why do I say that? Because if it's getting trampled on then there's no reason. Certain groups aren't held to the law. Us normies, the 99% of us out here, and that's been the case for a long time. I get it. I know a lot of people are frustrated. Ain't nothing going to happen, Mike. This is wishful thinking. Folks, you tell me when when Bill Clinton got out, and then you had Bush, and then after Bush you had Obama. None of these people went to these levels of the past. They would blame. You'd see Obama, something would come up from a reporter like, "What about this?" Well, I think that was the last administration that is causing this problem in our economy. I mean, they'd blame that he's a Republican or I'm a Democrat, but this is different. The whole time Trump's been running, it's been telling a story about the corruption and Hillary and the State Department and people in the government, and it's a vast system, and we've been hearing nothing about anything else other than draining of the swamp. It's on both aisles. It crosses both party lines. This is definitely different, and we better hope that's what's happening. We've all talked about it, and if you've done your research on the New World Order, I know tons of you have. I've watched years worth of videos, read many books. The one thing I always found lacking was it would tell you all about it. There's many different angles. You can go into the Hollywood arm of their propaganda. You got the media, you got the educational, military industrial complex. There's just so many angles that they're invested in. And all that research never really told you a way out of it. It just said, this is what's happening and this is how it's unfolding, and you wondered if there was any way to ever put a little fork in it. And honestly, it would take this. It would take somebody at the highest levels of the U.S. government with some patriots, with some backing, with the know-how, with all the smarts to it, to use all these tools that they had to use on us to flip it and use it on them. This is exactly what had to happen. So we better hope this is happening, because if not, I don't know what other hope we have. Other than all of us agreeing like, well, there is not, what are we waiting for? Like, to happen? Waiting for him to come take your stuff, waiting for him to come, round you up and march you into the ovens. Is that, talk here. I'll tell you what, if I end up in them lines and one of these idiots that I have to deal with on a daily basis, your neighbors, and then they're in line in front of you and they look back like, okay, fine, you're right all this time. I was wrong. Now what, mister? I would like, let me get ahead of you in the line. I don't want to hear you anymore. You've been wrong. We've tried to tell you all, and none of you, as you gave up our guns, as you voted to turn them over, as you did this, as you did that, now it's too late. There is no now what. Let me jump in that damn thing before you so I can not hear you talk anymore. All right, we don't want to get to that point, folks. So wake up. And we're going to tell these scumbags, again, back down, stand down. Stand down for the last time. And you know who you are. Quit making deals on America, for America, as a private citizen. You had your chance. You lost. We're not going that way anymore. And you're not in the right. The whole, I did nothing wrong, bottom of story, end of story, blah. No. It would be end of the story when you're behind bars and you can't make any deals anymore other than with your bunkie. All right, I'm Mike. This is a Patriot Hour. We'll see you guys back here a little bit later. We probably got something scheduled for later on this evening, possibly. I'm going to talk to Woodman Ben. If not, I'll come back on. We'll maybe do some phone calls, a little live show with call-ins on this Memorial Day. Again, enjoy your day, folks, with your friends and family. And again, don't forget, never forget, our fallen, the men and women, some 18-year-old kids going in. When I went in at 18, I knew nothing of the political. Very little. I didn't even know if I was a Democrat or Republican coming out. All right, I didn't have that instilled into me by my family. I actually had to go off and, see. And I actually got to do time under Bill Clinton, and I did time under Bush. So I saw the two different worlds for sure. And we can talk about that at another time, but we can never blame, our military members. They don't have a say, all right? Like we talked about, they don't sit on the battlefield as bullets are whizzing by, or, are you Republican or Democrat? They're brothers and sisters. They're there. They're not the ones creating the war. They didn't have a dog in the race. All right. We know that lots of past wars, orchestrated or not, people died. The people that typically go to fight them don't know why they're even there. They're handed a gun, dropped off, and, even if they're screaming, I don't want to be here, and a bullet whizzes by your head, that kind of puts you into perspective of somebody over there is trying to get me, and I don't want to be here, but I don't want to die here either. So, all right. God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you back here real soon on the next Patriot Hour update video. Have a great day. Enjoy. And say a little prayer for the fallen. All gave some, but some gave all. And we never forget. God bless.